During the Battle of France in 1940, Mad Jack led small raids on the enemy as the British Expeditionary Force was on the retreat from the Germans' relentless advance.
Alright y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. So today's video we're checking out another huge recommendation, and this is about Mad Jack, or I guess his real name is John Churchill, but basically he was a British soldier, I think he was a British soldier, who was utilizing a sword and a longbow during World War II, which is pretty crazy to think about, because you can imagine during World War II you probably wouldn't want to have, you know, a longboard and a sword, especially when the enemy has like MG42s and crazy machine guns and automatic weapons. You probably wouldn't want to be utilizing that. But again, it takes a certain badass to just do these things. And you hear about these individuals throughout history, and it sort of just blows your mind. So hopefully this video can provide a little bit of background for why he did this and how he was able to be successful utilizing these weapons during World War II. But this is from Simple History, so it'll be nice. It's animated. It'll be easier on the eyes, especially when we're talking about World War II. But yeah, hopefully they give a pretty good context as to how he was successful utilizing a sword and a longbow during World War II. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm very excited to hear the story.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace. We really appreciate Squarespace for supporting the channel and making the first purchase of a website. Or the man who fought with a longbow and a sword in World War II.
Okay.
John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill was born in Hong Kong and graduated from the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst in 1926. He would later earn the nickname Mad Jack, or Fighting Jack, for fighting with a longbow, bagpipes, and a sword in World War II.
Okay.
Stationed at Burma with the Manchester Regiment in the British Army during peacetime, made Mad Jack restless. It was during the interwar years, in the 30s, that he would master the bagpipes and ride his motorcycle across the entire Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
In 1936, after moving to England, Mad Jack left the army and became a model and a movie extra. He would also practice a new skill, archery, and became so good that he represented Great Britain at the World Archery Championships in 1939.
Oh, solid.
When war arrived, Mad Jack returned to the British Army and the Manchester Regiment as an officer and was shipped off to France. During the Battle of France in 1940, Mad Jack led small raids on the enemy as the British Expeditionary Force was on the retreat from the Germans' relentless advance. Using a longbow and a Scottish broadsword as his weapon of choice, he became the only soldier known to have felled an enemy with a longbow in the war when he landed a shot on the enemy Feldwebel with a barbed arrow.
What?
When asked why he did this.
All right, this is just like so weird to think about. Again, it's World War II. There's stuff happening all over the place. There's combat all over the place. People with automatic weapons and machine guns just firing at you. And he's using a longbow. And I mean, it seemed like he was using it pretty effectively. But I mean, he was an officer, so I guess it would go to show how effective your leadership would be if you're an officer and you have people underneath you and they have rifles and you're going in with a longbow and a sword. I mean, I guess it would instill some level of confidence, I would think. But again, you sort of just be like, this dude seems like he's off the cuff. He's kind of crazy if he's using a sword and a longbow when everybody else has like modern rifles. But if it doesn't help his leadership, then at least it would help his reputation, because again, you can imagine you're probably going to be one of the only people to use a longbow and probably be the only person to get a confirmed kill with it. Now, he said he took out a Feldwebel or something. I'm not sure if that's like a German officer or an NCO. But yeah, again, it's going to help your reputation, which I guess in turn would help your leadership as well.
He replied, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." During the retreat to Dunkirk, Mad Jack was shot in the neck. When asked how it happened, he replied, "German machine gun," casually. He would also win the Military Cross for bravery after rescuing a wounded British officer from a German ambush. After Dunkirk, Mad Jack signed up for the Commandos, and when his training was complete, he was sent to Vagsø, Norway in 1941 as second in command of No. 3 Commando in Operation Archery. As he left
appropriately named, I guess,
Mad Jack played March of the Cameron Men on his bagpipes and then led his men ashore with his broadsword waving in the air. The German garrison at Vagsø was quickly defeated, Prisoners were taken and the artillery batteries captured, along with shipping destroyed on Malloy Island.
Again, so then you're sort of bringing like the psychological warfare into it, because you're hearing, you see these amphibious vehicles or whatever, like these naval vessels coming towards the shore, and that's already doing something for you. But all of a sudden you start hearing bagpipes in the distance, and then you see a dude flailing a long sword around, or a broadsword. Yeah, that's going to do something for you. So it is an artillery unit, so I'm not sure how well defended they were. But again, he's going into the commandos now. And I mean, again, World War II, it's sort of hard to avoid combat. But as a commando, you're definitely getting into the thick of it. So he definitely wasn't afraid to go into combat and do all this crazy stuff with the weapons that he was actually using, which is really weird to think about. But I think he was, I think he would fit being in the commandos pretty well, because you have these people who are just generally certified badasses who want this sort of action, who want to be into the thick of it, and he's just challenging himself a little bit further by using these weapons.
For this action, Mad Jack received his second military cross. In 1943, in Italy, Mad Jack led 2 commando with the objective to destroy German artillery and observation posts in the town of Piglioletti. Even though the town was well defended and outnumbered, Mad Jack organized his men into 6 parallel columns, who instead of using stealth tactics all shouted "Commando!" The German defenders, as a result, were confused into thinking the shouting, which was coming from all directions in the darkness, was a much bigger force.
Yeah, there you go, the psychological
the 50
warfare.
men of number 2 Commando took 136 prisoners. Mad Jack, who was assisted by Corporal Raffel, took 42 German prisoners and captured a mortar crew using his broadsword.
Nice.
After marching the prisoners down to British lines, he said, "I maintain that as long as you tell a German loudly and clearly what to do, if you are senior to him, he will cry, 'Jawohl,' and get on with it enthusiastically and efficiently, whatever the situation."
Okay.
After losing the broadsword in hand-to-hand combat earlier, he later went to the town on his own to retrieve it. On the way, he met an American patrol going towards the enemy lines when they should have been going the other way, so he told them that he wouldn't come back for a bloody third time. In 1944...
Again, so yeah, utilizing that psychological warfare would definitely get you pretty far. And especially with the commando element, when you have all these violent individuals that are, totally okay with just yelling and screaming and being as loud and violent as possible, it'd probably work out a little bit better. And we've seen that previously, where people are like trying to make their unit seem a little bit bigger, or even much bigger, just by using screaming or violence, just to do like a psychological impact on the enemy. And it seems like it worked pretty well most of the time. So again, you can imagine the sort of level of leadership he inspired with these sort of people. And he definitely wasn't afraid to put himself in harm's way. So I'm sure they're pretty comfortable doing it as well. But yeah, I like how he went back to go and get his broadsword, which is kind of weird to think about. I guess you wouldn't really have access to any other Scottish broadswords in World War II. People probably don't issue those at the armory or anything. So yeah, okay, it makes sense that he would try and go back for it, especially if it was like an image for his leadership. But I don't think his guys would hold it against him if he started to use a rifle, especially after surviving that long with just a sword and bow and arrow.
Mad Jack was in Yugoslavia leading British commandos and now Yugoslav partisans, attacking the vital hill called Point 622 on the island of Brac in the Adriatic Sea against the Germans. Heavy casualties were caused, and soon Jack was alone and out of ammo. With no hope left, Jack started playing songs on his bagpipes until he was knocked unconscious by a frag grenade and captured by the German defenders.
Sheesh.
He was first sent to Berlin and interrogated, as it was thought that because of his real name, he was a relative of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and afterwards sent to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. But in September 1944, Mad Jack and an RAF officer escaped the camp by crawling under barbed wire through an abandoned drain and set out to walk to the Baltic coast, but were then captured. Now sent to a new camp in Niederdorf, Austria, Mad Jack escaped again on April 1945, taking the opportunity to get away when the lighting system failed in the darkness of night. He walked 150 miles through the treacherous terrain of the Alps, surviving on vegetables that he had liberated from gardens. 8 days later, and with a sprained ankle, he found a U.S. armored column and was sent back to England. Jack was frustrated.
Dude, okay. So we've seen this previously with like Larry Thorne or Lottie Torni, where, you know, you can have these badasses and put them in these prisons, but they're going to find a way to escape because they just have this mindset and this persistence that they're going to continue fighting and continue being a problem for the enemy. So yeah, you put him in prison, he'll escape, put him in prison again, and then he'll escape again. So we've seen that previously with other people. And again, it just goes to show how persistent and badass they are. But I mean, persistence isn't going to help you when you have to walk 150 miles. That's definitely all you. And that's pretty rough, especially over the Alps with those old World War II boots. You can imagine his feet were pretty jacked up. I imagine that's why his ankle was jacked up. But yeah, and then also eating just vegetables, you're going to be super malnourished. But he did 150 miles in 8 days. So that's like, I don't know, 18 miles a day or something, which is insane. That's very, very impressive. But okay, he found some Americans and now he's going back to England.
That the war in Europe was all but over, so made his way to the Pacific Campaign to join the battle against the Japanese in Burma. But by the time he arrived, the atomic bombs had been dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mad Jack was so unhappy, he said, "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going another 10 years. After the war, Mad Jack continued to seek danger, qualifying as a parachutist, then transferring to the Seaforth Highlanders, and later ending up in Palestine in 1948 as second in command of 1st Battalion, the Highland Light Infantry. During an ambush on a Jewish medical convoy by Arab forces, Mad Jack, with only 12 men and in full military dress, marched under fire to the convoy to offer its evacuation.
Okay.
"I grinned like mad from side to side," he said afterwards, "as people are less likely to shoot at you if you smile at them." He would later coordinate the evacuation of 700 Jewish doctors, students, and patients from the hospital atop Jerusalem's Mount Scopus.
Awesome,
Mad Jack would retire from the Army in 1959 with 2 awards of the Distinguished Service Order.
Wow.
Subscribe for more World War II.
All right. I think it's a little unreasonable to try and extend World War II any further. But again, it just goes to show some people are just bred for this sort of violence and that sort of lifestyle. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I can almost understand it. But yeah, he's going to. So he did World War II, and then he went to Israel and was fighting the Palestinians, I guess. So I know Israel got their independence in 1948. So I guess those timelines make sense. But dude, going to World War II and then going to help the Israelis out, it's just not something you'd think about, especially someone seeking out that much action that they, you know, go to the Middle East when they're so accustomed to fighting in like Europe and the Baltics. So yeah, interesting to think about. But yeah, you see these people throughout history, and again, it just blows your mind because they're sort of bred for this sort of violence and this behavior and this lifestyle. And it's cool to hear about. It makes some awesome animations. I mean, what, like 60 years later or 70 years later? So yeah, very cool to hear about. Again, I didn't really know how much he did. I mean, you sort of think of it as like a gimmicky thing when someone's carrying a sword in World War II, but no, he was in the thick of it, and he was definitely he was exposed to combat a lot of times. So yeah, certified badass basically. So if you guys know of any other badasses, you can put those down in the comments section. We've checked out a few with like Simo Heiha, and I think I said that correctly. Simo Heiha and Larry Thorne, and yeah, we've seen this a lot. So it's cool to hear these awesome stories and learn a little bit more about these individuals and what really motivates them to do all the crazy stuff they did. So yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, definitely put that in the comments section. But I do hope you enjoyed the video. It was very cool to hear about, especially if you guys weren't familiar with Mad Jack at all. Yeah, it's definitely mind-blowing, and it's just weird to think about and wrap your mind around. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any other recommendations. Regardless, I'm open for any recommendations. I do appreciate the support, and I do appreciate you guys liking and commenting and subscribing. It really, I don't know, it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see that level of support, and it's cool to see what you guys want me to check out. And again, Mad Jack, just a legend. So of course you guys would want me to check him out. It makes a lot of sense, especially if you're from the United Kingdom. You probably have a little bit of pride in that sort of history. But yeah, if you guys have any other recommendations, feel free to throw them in the comment section. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. That is it for this one. So I will see y'all in the next one.